what happens when you mix random colours together? And I was like, well, I don't know, just trying to be polite. And he was like, you get brown. And brown is shit. Good luck with that one, son. That's what I got. We've been trying for 20 years. Here we're doing clever brand things. But actually bringing SEO out and saying SEO is a fundamental part of all of these channels that we do, from public affairs through to communications, through to performance marketing. That's interesting. And you don't see that a lot, actually.
Welcome to Future Fuzz, the digital marketing podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of Future Fuzz, the digital marketing podcast. Today I'm joined by Tom Telford, the Chief Digital Officer at Clarity Global. At Clarity, a global and digital marketing communications agency, Tom drives an integrated offering designed to enhance reputation, create impact, and accelerate growth for clients worldwide. His mission is to ensure digital marketing, communications, and public affairs come together seamlessly, delivering the best possible outcomes for Clarity's diverse portfolio of clients. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on today. Let's dive into what Clarity are all about. In a few sentences, can you explain to the listeners what your mission is?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, we do marketing and we do communications. They're two kind of really obvious stablemates. And by bringing them together, we're able to enhance reputation. So we work at the sort of, one might say, top of funnel in terms of how we think about brand, how we influence share value, how we influence perception of brand. And then, of course, the growth engine and our performance teams, how we drive bottom line performance, driving leads. And then that mid-funnel, the missing middle, as some might say, around content, social, and programmatic and other areas as a bridge. So we're not a full service marcoms business in the traditional sense, but we are experts in this, reputation and growth goals and helping CMOs achieve those and marrying those two disciplines together.
You say you focus on the missing middle. I love that phrase, by the way, the missing middle. I think so many companies, whether it be B2C or B2B, they just really struggle with that aspect. What are the key, would you say, let's say 4 to 5 key areas of the missing middle that companies should be focusing on?
It's that engagement phase. Like I always like, if we're talking funnels, we're going full marketing. I quite like the red funnel as a sort of a layup for doing things, reputation, engagement, and then like demand. It's understanding your audience and then creating the content to meet that audience need. And I think a lot of brands are really good at telling the world how great they are, and they're really good at grinding leads and sort of capturing demand. It's that's what we call it, the missing middle, really, like how one appears in social, how we engage. And with the fact that funnels are now kind of slightly irrelevant with AI in many ways, it's that people don't just wake up and buy a thing, especially we're B2B focused, we're B2B tech focused. So they can be in SaaS, they don't necessarily have long lead cycles, but some of the big service businesses like Aon we work with, they can be 2 years for someone to sign up to something and do a thing, which could be worth many millions of pounds. That engagement phase, using content and understanding, the reason it's sort of missing is it does exist in every company. Every company has copywriters and content people, but it's how you stitch it into what's going on in comms and those bigger ideas, and then also how it follows through. So that seamless user journey. I think that people find that hard, if I'm honest, and that red thread, because often content sits in a digital experience team, or content sits in a marketing team, and comms sits somewhere else. And that sort of reputation piece. And I think that's one of the challenges. So for me, what is the red thread? Are we all saying the same thing? Sounds easy, but actually you find that there's a divergence in the middle of strategy. So you've got demand people over one end, like grinding MQLs, and you've got people over here thinking about the overall brand's reputation. And it's fascinating.
When we had a chat before, I remember you gave me a little bit of a quote that you'd spoken to someone that was very experienced in the industry, and they were talking about getting teams to communicate internally with one another to have a clear, like you say, like the red line of communication or what message is being delivered. Yeah. And I'm probably going to misquote this, but it was absolutely hilarious. You spoke to someone who said, if you had a team that was one color and another color, and let's say you had 5 teams that were different colors, and you mix them all together, what color would you get?
Brown.
Can you please finish the quote for me?
I had this. I can't say who it is, but someone pretty well known in the agency land in the UK.
And they were coaching you.
Yeah.
Okay,
and I'd gone in with some big ideas about integration, and having come from a very digital background, being around at the sort of start of .coms, I'm old enough to remember pre-Google AdWords living and Yahoo being a thing and all that through to now. So
And
I've
we
come from
should clarify one thing, is that one of the things is, in terms of communication integration with teams that you work with, you have to get them to work together.
yes, because actually that's where you get the best outcome. There's that cheesy, one add one is three, which it makes me die saying it. But if you do the right things, you do get a better outcome. Like the idea is that marketing communications and all the things that come with it in terms of digital experiences, ABM and stuff, all is synced, right? So
Yeah.
the CX is perfect. Anyway, so I kind of high floating ideas about integrating why everyone should talk to each other, and it's all brilliant, and if everything does the same thing, and said, you've got all this, and this certain person said, you've got all these colours, each of these channels are these colours, and he said, you've got these wonderful colours, they all look great, all really, really vivid. What happens when you mix random colours together? And I was like, well, I don't know, just trying to be polite. And he was like, you get brown, and brown is shit. Good luck with that one, son. We've been trying for 20 years. I was like, I got packed out of the office, like, thank you, off I go. And I understand it. It's difficult because, and a lot from my perspective, a lot of it's about shared objectives. Actually, is part of the issue. Everyone runs all these channels, and they've got people that are creatives, you've got people that are almost like engineers, all trying to do the same thing across this spectrum of this funnel, which is, people come in at different angles of it now. And it's right. And actually blurring it together is difficult. And as an agency, it can be difficult. How do you bill it? How do you build the 101 is three, the missing piece and all that? So I think, and also clients, you have budgets for comms, you have budgets for marketing, you have budgets for tech. And those three can be quite different people in larger organizations and smaller organizations. And so I understand where he was going. At the time I came away being like, don't agree. Absolutely ridiculous. I can fix this. I'm an absolute legend.
You're an optimist, I can tell. You're an optimist.
Turbo optimist. And actually getting to the end of it, we've got there in our organization because we can control our environment. But what's interesting is controlling the external environment. Two budgets can you get KPIs to be aligned throughout that red thread? That's hard. And therefore, if people's jobs and their careers and their reputations are based on, their personal ones based on the outcomes they have in a specific job, and you're saying, I know you're aiming for this thing, but can you also aim for this thing too? Yeah. Without spending any more money on it? They're like, no, I want this thing, and I've got this amount of money. If I don't do this thing, I will be fired. So it's quite hard to say, can you align to these SEO objectives? Because if your SEO and your comms are in the same alignment, especially with geo, you're going to be in a really lovely place. So in many ways, the colours are being farrell and bald at the moment, I would say, and the brown is getting softer. I think as everyone realises that there's to actually achieve wider goals, you have to, let alone should, and should isn't enough, I would say. But have to now is the important piece of especially GEO.
What do you want to pick up on the content piece that you mentioned there briefly is SEO. So it's a big part of. I'm assuming it's a big part of what Clarity does, and it's a big part of a lot of companies driving traffic to their site, driving engagement, driving inbound leads, driving awareness, right? Yeah. And there's this common term of phrase that I'm seeing more and more and more, especially with the proliferation of large language models, right, is that SEO is dead. Again.
Yeah. It's had about a third coming now, I think, in the amount of times it's died in the last 20 years.
I think so. I think I saw a few posts on this, so pick up on this, is that one person said, SEO is dead. I've seen this at least 10 times before in a cycle. Yeah. One brilliant marketing lady, and I forgot. So I feel so bad. I've forgotten her name, but I saved the post and we could put it in the notes. She did very, very simple analysis. Like, this is all the traffic that we get into our organization, and 75% of it is still organic search. 75% of all the traffic to the whole organization. Big company as well, right?
Yes.
So that's a good sign. And then another absolutely brilliant post. Why is everybody killing everything all the time? Why does everything have to die, right? I mean,
you just evolve,
Yeah. Your thoughts on that? You don't believe it's dying? You think it's evolving? I'm just really curious.
There's a couple of sides to that, isn't it? Yes, I've been sort of in, say, digital and that side of it since the very early noughties, post.com burst in an SEO sort of ramp up. It's died on more than one occasion, and it just isn't. It has changed again. Panda and Penguin came, and it's like, well, it's all dead. It's all about content. It's clever enough to work out we're gaming it. Yeah, but the fact is, you're still gaming it. I think. Yeah. The SEO. What's interesting watching Geo come through. I'll talk about SEO as a channel in a minute because I've got some opinions on that. But just talking about Geo and something I've observed recently is sort of like, well, it doesn't. It's it's about communication. So I agree. Comms has got a massive part to play in AI overviews and chatbots. Massive.
Can you just clarify on the terminology geo, because some people will not be
Yeah, of
familiar with that.
course. So generative engine optimization. So how do we ensure that our clients or ours and our clients' brands are being indexed in large language models and being taken seriously as an authoritative source on whatever topic the prompt is, and ostensibly optimizing for the AI overview at the top of Google and other search engines apply, and also just within ChatGPT in areas. So understanding, it's the process of understanding how you get the understanding the topics that your users are looking for, your customers are looking for,
Yeah.
the content that you need,
Yeah.
and of course how you get that coverage, that authoritativeness, and actually the LLMs are very good at going into, and LLMs never forget, and they go into news sites and they index news sites and they have arrangements and they're all quite different. The subtlety differences between the different sort of AI tools that you use, and so how do you find you get into those areas? So geo for us is ensuring your brand and your thought leadership and your IP is appearing in those. So when someone's searching for something, you're synonymous or included in the thinking to produce the result.
Don't you think, I'm going to challenge this, don't you think it's a little bit of a fad?
No, I don't. I think to the point I was going to say a minute ago, like one of the things, I think being a bit of an SEO old timer,
Yeah.
back in the day when you're selling SEO, 2010, you're like, right, get your key phrases right, get them on your website right, drive links to it, you'll gain rank. That's ostensibly how it works. Ironically, SEO is dead, but actually to rank in generative engine optimization, it's the same thing. What are the prompts? What are the topics? Where is the content? And how do you appear? Links just becomes coverage, as it should have always been. I find that fascinating because it isn't dead. And also below, and this will change, below and saying Google, the AI overview, there is still a load of other opportunities for organic traffic and other places to rank in a more traditional sense. And actually the buyer isn't just going to read the snippet generated by a robot right now, especially in a B2B environment, and just buy off the back of that. They are going to carry on searching. It just
they're going
makes
to do more
faster.
research. Yeah, definitely.
Especially
in B2B.
B2B. So I think, is it a fad? I think voice search was a fad, and we all got our knickers in a twist about that one, and that blew through and came out the other side. That was hilarious. You could argue this, but no, because all it is, from my perspective right now, this is an evolution of search. Google came along and made the old search engines look terrible because the relevancy was brilliant, and it's continuously leading on this journey. If you sort of bundle ChatGPT and Google together at the moment, what we see is it's a much faster way to get the information that you want. Traditionally, you put a key phrase in, you get these are the things relevant to the key phrase, and you make your assumption. AI overview is doing that bit for you, that first round of it, and it gets better by the day. So I think it's here to stay because what's interesting is how the monetization of it happens as well, and those side of things. But
I think people are always going to be curious, and they're always going to be looking for information. I just wonder if I get the feeling that if people are saying SEO is dead, they're just trying to say that Google is suffering. They basically are Google bashing, but whereas they're so dominant and they're still number one, is that they can change their model appropriately to benefit from it eventually, right? I mean, they'll find an advertising model. There'll be an advertising model in that answer that you get now when you type in a question into Google. And sometimes it's a bit random, isn't it? Sometimes you get an answer, sometimes you don't. And I've noticed recently when I'm doing searches, I'm actually being flipped. I'm seeing less of an answer provided, and more back to that. So let's say traditional. Here are your advertisements, and here's your organic reach. Does feel like a bit of a Google bash, doesn't it?
Yeah, you could say cynically that they're probably dialing it down now and again to get ad revenues back up. What's working out what to do with it. And I think the lack of information is interesting. The lack of reporting, the lack of,
So there's no reporting on those answers from Google if someone types in a question.
There's a real lack of measurement in the sort of GEO world at the moment. A lot of tools like SEMrush are getting there. Lots of tools are coming in doing it. I imagine, years ago, there's always been a dance between SEOs and Google, and there's almost intrinsically this sort of terrible love affair where Google hates it but also needs search, and that's also been the backbone of it. Marketeers using it has paid for it. At the same time, they're constantly being gamed by the same person that's giving them money in a different platform. I think they have the same here, but in the end, things like Search Console almost told you what was going on in traditional SEO. I would imagine that would happen from an AI perspective as well.
Future Fuzz is sponsored by SalesSource, B2B pipeline management and sales growth for your business.
Tom, you want to talk about SEO not being a channel. Can you clarify on what you mean there? Clarification.
Bring some clarity on it. I had a pound in the jar for every time I said that. Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, what's interesting in the market is, we talk about SEO as a channel. It's sort of got commoditized into being a channel, but it isn't actually. Organic traffic is a channel. SEO is a sort of methodology or a framework for lots of different things. And actually, if you were taking it seriously of an organization, we see that happening. We extol it from our side, and we have a very technical SEO team on top of a number of creative disciplines in our organization. But also, at client side, as people are realizing it, the savvy side, it actually should sit everywhere. It's not this sort of channel. It's like, right, I need some SEO. I'm going to go find some SEO people to do some SEO things. You can do that. We do it too at times. You make money on that. But the reality is, if the SEO person sat at the table in a comms meeting or in a content meeting, and actually becomes a sort of a referee on the side to say, how are you making the most from AI is one thing, but just in general, how is SEO influencing what we talk about? How is it influencing what we communicate as comms professionals? How is it influencing what we write about? And again, also, how are we feeding back the success of that and the metrics from SEO? So we're doing some projects at the moment with clients where we're doing a lot of SEO and comms together for the purposes of geo.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're not paid. We're not their SEO agency. So our KPIs, perhaps as an organization, are around geo success, whatever that means in this modern world, and which changes daily. And the classic comms metrics. The money comes from a comms person that sort of knows that. But the outcomes we're doing here by optimizing and doing our communications within an SEO strategy is that we are improving our domain authority, whatever that means in the modern world, traditionally, and also we will be influencing rank, and we'll be influencing search, a traditional metric over here we're not benched upon. So SEO is a good example of how SEO can be part of a wider framework, a wider integrated strategy.
Yeah.
And it gets pegged into that techie discipline on the corner that makes Google do some stuff, but over here we're doing clever brand things. But actually bringing SEO out and saying SEO is a fundamental part of all of these channels that we do, from public affairs through to communications, through to performance marketing. That's interesting, and you don't see that a lot actually. We've worked a lot down those roads in the last couple of years, and especially recently. And now actually, Geo's focused budgets in mind.
Tom, you work with a lot of B2B clients, and they're looking at driving engagement. And you mentioned, for example, I think one of your clients, they might have a 2-year sales cycle, which is, if you think about it, it's phenomenal. I mean, I know in some cases in the medical space, etc., they'll have a sales cycle sometimes like 3 to 4 years or 5 years if it's construction. What's your take on the power of video, and are clients asking for it more and more and more?
I think the sort of video revolution's a big word, isn't it? It sort of happened a few years ago, and so that actually in B2B, where B2B brands were realizing they needed more of it, but it was stressful just to have there's this view of bland, boring, grey talking heads waffling about some sort of corporate message in the end of it. I think there was a certain amount of that as well, to be fair, just sort of almost like brand video narcissism that no one really cares about the actual buyer. It's more for self. I wouldn't say that we've seen an explosion in it, because I think we do it a lot already, and it provides us, when we're integrating social media and again to that missing middle, then video does do really well, but it has to be good. I think the problem we have now is there's a sense of fatigue on video, I think, because there is a lot of it and it's easy to create. It used to be quite difficult to create. Now it's not anyone can do it. Smartphones are fantastic, as the ads would say. So the issue is quality, I think, but a good quality video will often do better than the written counterpart, and we do see that. Engagement is, of course, better, and people are obviously looking at it longer. It depends on the stats. I'm a bit of a stats cynic, a background as an analyst that got into digital, and so, time on site's gone up. Well, of course it has, because someone's watching the thing, not skimming the text. We've got to be a bit careful how we talk about success with video. But it's as popular as ever. It's a great way of articulating a message. I think AI in general, away from geo, but just AI as assistant, is going to mean we will see more of an explosion, because it'll become even easier to crack something out. But it will be the danger and the opportunity is efficiency. The danger is homogenized content that will create a layer of meh around the world, which then may be the true creativity or poke over the top. So to answer your question, as important as ever, I think the mechanism of creating it is evolving very rapidly, and I think people's engagement with it, it's very easy to turn someone off. It's easier to get it wrong than right, which isn't necessarily with written or sort of graphic content.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you 100% there. It's easier to get it wrong than get it right. I think quality will always resonate. If you have a good podcast conversation, or if someone is, let's say, doing thought led piece or a knowledge sharing piece that isn't too corporate, right? Who on earth is going to, like, I do agree, who on earth is going to watch that corporate stuff? It does seem to be like a top down directive. Oh, we want to do this, and you're like, yeah, why? Oh, because we think it's important. And then, is anyone actually going to watch it? Is anyone actually going to listen? And then quality. Yeah, absolutely. It will cut through. But also, if I think I do love this stat, is that 70% of people have made a decision, especially in a B2B space, that they're going to engage and start chatting with an organization. 70% of them before they've even spoken to someone, they're making that decision, and they want to consume more material than ever before. And they want access to content that's relevant for them in their buying space. So it does feel like you're going to have to shed tons of content for each particular decision maker in an organization, right?
Yeah, I agree. And that's that, one of the tenets of a good campaign is being everything you do should be insightful, creative, and measured. That applies to any agency discipline if you're campaigning. And the fact is, if you got your insight right, then you do know your audience, so your creativity matches, doesn't it? And the measurements will speak for itself. But I think you're right, and I think we are in an era where we can produce more content, so that is a good thing. But that hyper personalization or that hyper specificity to do with industry or this ICP that you're going for, ideal customer profile, it is. And there's an opportunity, but what it also creates is vast amounts of admin for someone to manage at a marketing level to make sure it's effective. And I think that's the other content for content's sake. Content puke is still a thing. It's making sure that, to your point, you're right. You can be specific, but you can also create so much that it's a bit overwhelming. And that's where content strategy, again, in that missing middle, comes back to that, or the messy middle, depending on who you are. I think that's really vital, and I think will always be a constant challenge, AI or not.
On that note, I do love that phrase, content puke. Let's cut out the content puke, guys, and let's focus on some absolute quality. Brilliant stuff. Tom, I'm really glad we made this happen. You've moved to a beautiful location in Devon. And I'm really pleased that Starlink has been the technology that's held itself together today in order to do this brilliant podcast. And hopefully one day we'll meet in person and enjoy a coffee in London town. It's been an absolute pleasure.
100%. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for tuning in and making the choice to listen to this podcast. If you liked what you've heard today, please don't forget to subscribe.